Okie dokie. Hello, my name is James Justice, and I will be presenting on the effects of standardized testing on gifted learners and on their educators. A little background knowledge behind this. My younger brother is a gifted student, and my mother has been an educator for 25 years. She's taught at 3 or 4 different schools through math and some sciences. And with this paper, I use my brother as kind of the inspiration behind it, because though he is brilliant, I feel like the system has kind of failed him away, because he is starting to lose the motivation behind graduating and everything, even though he's holding 3.9 in high school and doing fine. So it's kind of like the standardized testing places so much pressure on not only teachers and the students to perform, it also focuses on the bare minimum that is needed in order to pass a student from point A to point B, get them out and on. It's also for the gifted learners. It's really monotonous and slow paced, and it makes them more resentful of the education process, and doesn't really, it demotivates them to do anything. Our brother skipped class because he doesn't, feel like he's being challenged, which I think is really sad. For me, going through high school, I heard the word college, post-secondary ready. You got to go off to university, you got to get your PhD and everything. And for me, and what the data shows is the pressure mounts with each year in high school. As it gets closer and closer, students begin to crack. And it shows that by age 8, all students in both Florida and Texas will have taken their very first high-stakes standardized test. For us, it's the FCAT, and for them, it's TAKS. And it just shows here that I have a quote from a recent study that says, in the past 25 years, there's been an explosive growth in the number of students taking AP classes, with 1/4 of all high school graduates have taken at least one in 2004. In addition, more high school students are now being forced to take the SAT twice, and the SAT and ACT at least once, and most of them taking them multiple times. Along with the pressure of taking all these tests, it also affects the mental health of students, which I think is pretty sad. A recent study from the Stanford School of Medicine indicates that the number of children ages 7 to 17 are treated for depression, and it's doubled between the years 1995 and 2001. And I feel like with the rapid and seemingly never-ending onslaught of standardized tests, homework, your test preparation, it's not that hard to reach out and say that we're creating a more stressed out and materialistic and miseducated student instead of one that's more well-rounded in all the arts. The students also, as students here, you must test, you must go off to university. Teachers also, crack under pressure. I had a teacher really close to me, Thomas Ryan, a teacher of, I believe, 33 years for Duval County. I have him recorded saying, teaching isn't what it used to be. Don't go into education. I originally wanted to go into education. I wanted to be a music educator. But unfortunately, that stigma that they placed on it really devalued it for me. And I had one of my favorite English professors, Ms. Scully. She just graduated from UF with her master's, and that next year, she went back and got something in accounting because the pressure and regulation imposed by the government led her to be less motivated and less innovative. Because you have to do this one thing, you have to do it really well, and you can't deviate, which I think is really sad because students learn, through different methods. They prescribe the correct way. From a recent Virginia study, more than 80% of their teachers in the survey indicated that the state test, standard of living is what it's called, had affected their instruction. And this confinement to one successful way of teaching led them to be unhappier, and most of the teachers
It's next door, but it's coming in here.
oh, yeah. Let's go, man. Oh, it's schizophrenic or something. Yeah, for real. The study from Virginia, 80% of them did not feel like they were teaching to their max potential. It's kind of like, would you rather drive on a wheel or on a block? Both can get you from point A to point B, but one of them, is going to run out and do a lot of damage. If not immediately, then later down the road, and the other is more well-rounded. This too can be comparable with teaching to the test. With many schools pushing AP, SAT, and AC classes, and over 50% of students actually taking them, teachers are being forced to teach the bare essentials, not focusing on the more well-rounded student. They're teaching them test-taking strategies like memorization. If you see a pattern in like A, blank, C, it's more than likely going to be A. And that's, the data shows that's not what produces more well-rounded students. After the No Child Left Behind was passed in 2002, the U.S. slipped from 18th in the world in math to 31st. And the report found that there was no evidence of test-based incentives and improved education. So obviously the data is lying, saying it's not helping, it's more hurting. And from that, teaching, here's what you got to do, the tactics and strategies. Many say that they want to go back to teaching chapter by chapter and having a more in-depth discussion in class. But from what the statistics are showing is that only happens in college. But only 65% of students go off to college. But of those 65, only 50% of them actually go through their freshman year. Most of them drop out due to lack of preparation in high school through rigor, which I think is horrible because we need more bright students out there. This just goes to show that teaching to a test isn't working and is actually inhibiting more than it is helping. And then last and most disheartening is that the brightest students, the gifted learners, are taking the biggest blow since the establishment of standardized testing. They say, or this shows a study from Duke University shows that schools see little incentive to support their gifted learners since they're already proficient at the minimum testing levels. So as the accommodations for lower performing students increases, the inverse must take place for the higher level exceeding students. This is enacted by adding time and emphasis on test-taking drills. It entails taking more time away from our gifted students, whether it be through like their arts programs, their field trips, STEM activities, which I enjoyed in high school. It also deprives our most promising pupils from the knowledge and challenge that they want or even need, because like my brother, they see the evaluation in the education system or in the process. And with the test-taking skills based on basic memorization and almost militaristic repetition, gifted students don't see a need. They just go there. They become disassembled from the practices of the classroom. They're also held at a higher level to make up for the lower performing students, which if you're performing above and beyond, but you're detached from the actual process, how can that even help? That's going to hurt them even more. It's also reducing growth potential of our most promising students while expecting them to stay, wholeheartedly engaged in a process that none of them even want to be there in the end. In conclusion, though standardized testing was well meant in order to have an umbrella program which can be regulated and which can be easily identifiable on where our problems and weaknesses are, it unfortunately it has hurt the instructors and the top percentiles in performances. It has also inserted anxiety in relationship with performances to meet expectations, not only between the regular students, the gifted learners, and the teachers. And teaching kind of now entails conforming to a singular set behavior instead of engaging and constantly keeping information relevant with different angles and different perspectives on how to teach the material. Lastly, our most promising pupils aren't even coming close to their academic ceiling by becoming more disconnected from the education process as a whole. And I think until we figure out what the right balance is or how we can tailor it to different types of students, that we won't reach the results that we inevitably want, which is to be back at the top. So thank you for your time. I'd like to thank Dr. Colavito and all of and everybody at FSCJ for helping with the paper. I had 5 or 6 professors, but unfortunately I'm scatterbrained right now.